So now that I laid out my foundation and kind of got my bearings, what do you guys want to look at? This is your chart now, okay? So here I'm going to pull over just like a regular monthly group coaching. I'm going to recycle a little panel. So we'll change today's date, 9/20/21. Empty out the tickers, and I'll do just like I always do. All right. Whoops. Coming back here. So I'm going to get my sticky note. And I'll call out your name when I have recognized your request here. I would like to know your initial analysis, anything, whatever that is, before you ask me a question. You know, I've been talking to traders recently, and one said to me, you know, you're kind of tough in how you ask us to ask you questions in monthly group coaching live. And I said, good, thank you. That's exactly my intention. This is what my dad used to do to me. Be like, what is your analysis first, Hima? What is your take first? Then would feed into that and give me his take. Because that's the only way you're going to learn is by practicing what you're learning, right? Through courses, books, ebooks, whatever. All right. So Terry, I see you have a question about RTY. I'd love to have more insight from you in your analysis. Sanjay, same thing about GC futures. Meanwhile, I'm scrolling back. Rainier, I see your question about MOS. I will take a look at that. Greg Olson, I see your question about IP. We will look at that. And Yogesh, you gave me a couple of them. So first we'll go with your, well, I'll grab them both here and then I'll decide because I like to answer everybody's first question before repeat. David, I see you're asking about the Qs. Okay. Okay. So let's dive in. First, a couple of you asked about NASDAQ and Qs. So I'm going to put those two together. Aston, you asked about the NASDAQ. David, you're asking about the Qs. So let's do multi-time frame analysis from scratch in a few minutes. Ready? We're going to make this fun and interactive. So I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute. And every 1 minute, I'm going to change the time frame on the chart. I want you guys to look with me and see what can you ascertain from a chart in a minute. If it feels too fast, don't worry. You will get there with experience. How does it sound, guys, as an exercise? So we kind of like keep pace. Type a Y if you like it. Okay. So I'm going to go 60 seconds on the weekly, 60 seconds on the daily, and move through. Let's just see what happens. I'm feeling crazy here. Ready? All right. 60 seconds on the NASDAQ Qs weekly. We have been in an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows since March 2020, with the most recent low being this swing low that's shaping the advance. However, on that swing low, we are now correcting back lower after the RSI power zones approached the bull resistance power zone. They didn't quite stop there, right? So what I want to look at is a couple of things. One is the retracement of the entire move. Now I would come in and add all the GAN levels, starting with 25, 50, 75. And I want to look at the most recent low on the bar time frame. Now I'm going to be putting out something new, not too far from now, really getting into my essential price action methods. You guys are going to love it. So we're going to let you know when those are ready. But for now, how's that for, I got 5 seconds left and I was done. Okay, so now let's take this and we're going to go to the daily chart. I've already defined my most important level close by on the weekly. Okay, I'm going to turn the timer on after I add that support. Here we go. Okay, 60 seconds on the daily chart. We already determined weekly is a long-term uptrend. It is now a corrective pullback in motion with the most important bar low on the weekly, right, being August 19th low. On the daily chart, that is a price low and that's a swing low. So this is a very important level. Now this did all this with a big gap here. Markets can close gaps. There's no guarantee that it will. I recommend looking at the high of the gap meaning the low of the bar before it, the low of the gap, which is the high of today's bar, and the middle as your resistance levels. David, Aston, you're getting this? I'm going fast, but I'm going to give you actionable stuff here. Okay. If we hold above the August 19th low, I think we have a decent chance for recovery up till where? Let me show you. See, now that we're in a daily chart, I'm going to kind of be zooming in here. So my eyeballs are telling me to draw trend lines. Let me finish this and then we'll change gears. I don't really know which, if any of these are that actionable, but these changing slopes, this one looks more helpful. I think this is a good resistance trend line to keep an eye on. So this is all resistance. That's why I'm going to change it to blue. Come on, blue. And that's my main thing. So that should answer Aston asking about the recovery. Yeah, there's potential for recovery, but here are the levels I think it's limited to. Changing level of the trend line and these three resistances. David, does it help you out, given that you have a options position on? That was fun. I just thought of that today. All right, good. So we'll keep it to 1 minute per time frame. Oh, that's my other timer to take an eyeball break. So while I take a quick eyeball stretch, I'm still going to answer your questions. Those of you who are here often, what did you think of that? How did you feel? Did it go too fast? Did you like it because it kept me from going on and on? What do you think of this 1 minute per time frame? So that means we can analyze a market in under a couple minutes. Aston, I'm on the Qs. That's all. This is not the NASDAQ itself. This is the Qs ETF built off the NASDAQ. So we can translate that over to those levels. So whatever yesterday's low was on Friday, September 17th, I'm telling you that's resistance. The high of the gap from today is resistance and the middle is resistance. I just needed to pick one. Okay, you guys said good speed. Okay. All right, I'm stretching my eyeballs. What does that mean? If you've never been here before or haven't been in a while, I physically, every 30 minutes or so, I'm at the computer, I look away from the screen. As traders, if we don't do this, we're going to lose our eyeballs. We're going to make our muscles tired. We're going to have eye strain. Eye health is very important. So I look away and I look at something far away, ideally 20 feet away, like out the window. I usually physically stretch gently. Okay, so do whatever your doctor permits. You know, roll your shoulders, maybe wiggle your toes a little, especially if you were sitting there all clenched and stressed today. Take a breather, okay? It's just one day in the market. I'm having this session with you so we can all regroup together. I can help you out, and then we'll still kind of keep looking at it every day, okay? I look at it in the skinny multiple times a week. I'll be doing stock picks tomorrow. You guys will continue to get my guidance. All right, so I do this eyeball break for about a minute, and then I come back. Okay, so let's try again now with another question that was asked. All right, so let me translate that really quick, asking for the NQ. So I just want to show you the same thing we did there. So on the NQ futures, there's not going to be a gap, right? Because it's a futures market, is traded continuously. So here, I'm looking at this entire range from September 16th as important resistance. Somebody's saying, I'm not understanding the relationship between weekly chart and daily chart trend analysis. I'm looking at the weekly chart first to make sure I pick out the most important level. There's less noise there. Whatever's defining the trend. I bring it over to the daily, and then I go down in my analysis time frame. So this is something I do a lot in monthly group coaching, and I really like teach it in depth in the 4 zones RSI coverage system if you want to take a closer look. So let's continue on with the requests you guys have, and let's now shift to gold. We had more than one person asked about gold. So I will do continuous contract of GC futures. and GDX really quick, both of them, okay? So GC futures, continuous chart weekly. Well, we came back up and tested these highs from the summer and are pulling back. All of this very long, spiky bar, the midpoint is still important, something I want to keep an eye on. So support at about 1730. On the weekly chart, RSI power zones aren't doing anything particularly telling. They're essentially still consolidating, right? Between this low, it briefly tested it, and beneath this high. It didn't even come back into it. You see, guys, how we have just mixed highs and lows in between? Type a Y in the chat if you see that on GC. Sanjay, Yogesh, do you see that? Okay. Before I leave the weekly chart, I also want to look at this latest weekly price spike, which is a low at 1803, high at 1836. So on the daily chart, this is what I want to look at for resistance, and this is what I'll look at for support. So I'm going to start my timer again. Now, all of those old numbers there, that was some practice we did from forecasting a while ago. Let's see where we're at now. All right, so if I relate what I saw on the weekly chart, it's still a spiky bar here on the daily, but it's not the same one, right? It has a different midpoint. And then the same thing with the upper price spike. It's going to have slightly different parameters. So this support, this resistance, and what's the RSI power zones doing? Well, ever since that consolidation started, it's been quite volatile, but as of mid-June, we have stayed dominated by which zone? Pop quiz for you guys. Which zone is dominating the RSI? Let me know in the chat. All right, bear zone, red zone domination, exactly. So if you guys don't know what that is, remember, look at it here. Actually, it started back here. Take a look. Went down and up, went up, down, up. So the bear zones, the two red zones have been dominating. That's what that means. So with where we are right now, that price spike is resistance, but then also there's this guy right here, which actually in the daily chart, I think this is more important set of resistance. And the middle of the daily price probe is reinforced by this bar low here. So most important supports on gold futures around 720. Most important resistances start at 1780 to 1785. Does that help you out, Sanjay? And we'll translate over that to GDX now for Yogesh. Okay, so 60 seconds to the GDX. So notice on GDX, it's a little bit of a weaker situation here. See, the consolidation on the futures is much more sideways. The consolidation or whatever choppiness on GDX is much more directly weak. In fact, we can look at some of the short-term cycles that on the weekly chart probably don't have the best cycle length. Okay, so we're hanging out around the 50% retracement of the whole advance from last March. We're starting to continue, we are continuing lower. How many drives, my GAN students, how many drives do you see off of the May high on the weekly chart? We'll look at the daily to get more refined, but I see 1, 2, 3, 4 moves. So that means one drive lower, second drive lower, and now we're possibly in the third drive. Yeah, Liliana, I agree. I see 3. So if we're in the third drive lower right now, within the context of whatever weakness off this high, let's give another 60-second and look at this on the daily chart. And this time, let's mix it up. Let's look at it with the, actually, no, let's not, because we didn't have a clear trend. Scratch that. Let's just come back and look at it on the plain daily chart. So this would be the same cycle that I just recognized. So far, the underlying market is stronger than this cycle suggesting, because based on this, we should be all the way at this low in a couple of days. We're not quite. Now, it's not over, right? Time has to elapse. So September 22nd is an important day for GDX. Do you see that, Yogesh? So your analysis is saying that it'll be $40 by the end of 2021 or early 2022. I think that's possible, but I do think you might have to ride some more weakness down to like 28, maybe 27 at least in between. All right, cool. We took care of gold there. So since we are on gold, let's move on to silver for Yogesh and round out the metals here. So this looks like a silver ETF, like a miner's ETF, yes? Okay. So here's how we analyze something that you've never maybe even seen before. I haven't pulled up this ticker yet, okay? First of all, we have a high, then market made lows here. And what did it make here, guys? What type of high is this? A lower swing high. That was a big deal. And that was with the RSI and the bear resistance power zone. And here we are dropping off from there. So we've come in, we're attempting to push below this platform of support and continue to retrace this move. But look, what's so close by? What important retracement is close by? That's right, the 50% retracement, right? So I think silver might be at support on the weekly chart. Let's take that to the daily chart. So I'm going to squish it up. That's what I call condensing the data. So I can draw the same analysis. So I just want to put on the same retracement. And those of you who are here for maybe the first time or haven't been in a while, there's more lines I can draw in my retracements, but 50% is the most important to me. So I start with that. And if I need more, I add it in. Okay. It just makes less clutter on my charts. All right, now we come into the price action. Here was that lower high. It was confirmed with a gap, and we've been making lower highs since, including this set right here. So similar to what we saw on GDX, and here we've got September 21st. Do you guys see how one metal, gold, GDX had market timing for September 22nd, and SILJ has timing for September 21st. The related markets, that's not really a surprise. It's a cool thing, right? So Yogesh, with your positions, be careful about what's happening in the beginning of, well, tomorrow and Wednesday. That's essentially what we're coming into. We might be coming into timing for a low, but you have to wait for price to confirm. What does that mean when I say that? Let's just take this for an example, okay? If we continue to trade lower and the market puts in an actual low here on that day, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm so amazing. I just forecasted and I have a crystal ball, right? Well, this is simply a bar, right? A bar has an open, a high, a low, and a close somewhere, right? Whether it closes up or down. Everybody following? Please type a Y in the chat. This is like basic stuff that maybe nobody ever actually walked you through, but I'm going to do it now. Okay. And here's the thing. If you only depend on this, you do not have enough ammo. You don't have enough power there. The next best thing to depend on is if the market made this low here. Okay, so we'll remove all this. So made a bar low and then made a bar with a higher low. That creates what I call a price low, price with a capital P. What would be even better is if that next higher bar low came in, because then you would have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 bars would give you the most reliability that this support level will actually hold. So that was just like a quick walkthrough of information that I have taught in various ways, usually at the beginning of my courses. And again, because I'm currently really kind of going back to the basic elements to make sure everyone has the elemental pieces of price understood. So Yogesh, you have a roadmap now. I hope you use it, okay? And if you are not using loss forecasting trading system, be careful with what I just showed you. You have to know how to study the forecast even when they're wrong. And I teach that in the system. All right, so while I move on to your next request, I'll look at Bob's news question here. All right, what else do you guys want to look at? Let's see, Greg asked about IP. Let's circle back to that. Let's do this timer because it seems to be working well. Okay, international paper, starting with a weekly chart, but actually, you know what? I'm going to go back further. I'm going to go to a monthly chart because I just want to really know where this is at. Okay, so we had an all-time high back in January of 2018. We came back and we came into this price spike on a monthly chart. Beautiful, right? Hung around the middle for a while and is backing off. All right. On a monthly chart, this then becomes an area of support that I would want to monitor. It's the most recent price low. So now I'm going to change out to a weekly and continue. That price low on the monthly chart turns into this price probe on the weekly chart. My 4 zones, my momentum students, can you please type a Y? Now you can see why I do multi-time frame analysis, because it helps you turn price lows into price probes and price highs and price spikes with more emphasis. If this low, do you see this now, Balakrishna? Awesome. See how this low was important not only in the monthly chart, it's also important on the weekly chart. That adds even more weight to it in terms of buyers living there, right? Potentially ready to take action. All right, so now I'm out of time apparently, but we're going to add it back. So 60 minute, let's analyze, or sorry, 60 seconds of weekly chart. The same price spike back here on the weekly was just a bearish engulfing candle. Ooh, beautiful, beautiful. Greg, do you see how nicely this held the middle of a price spike on a weekly chart? We're going to get to your question about the market now, but I want to make sure you understand what's unfolding here. Does everybody see that? All right, cool. So I'm going to take that off. I'm going to focus in on the more recent price action. We are correcting lower off of this June 4th high, came up near the bull support, now, sorry, bull resistance, now back to bull support. Okay. I'm going to take that information and go to the daily. I'm going fast to kind of get everything in that you guys are asking. I hope you're finding it helpful. Okay, 60 seconds on daily chart. This was that most important level on the weekly chart. See, 46.48, 46.48. Now, it's kind of far away from price. So what is close by that's more important? Well, we just broke below this July 29th low. And this is a bit of a complex move right here. These multi-tops and lots of time. So this is a little bit more of like advanced forecasting situation, but, ooh, mama, do you guys see that? Do you see how you could have drawn that forecast as early as this red candle? And you had the added benefit of seeing bear zone domination. So Greg, you said you are long from 55.88 today with targets at 57.24 and 58.21. 57.24 is still beneath this old bottom from September 15th. So if we start paying attention now to the really short-term action, is there a chance for recovery there? I think so, but we have to make sure that this bar low turns into a price low, right? And better yet, if it has another bar after it, that makes it more solid. But honestly, at the minimum, if you have this, I think that would be good added evidence to your upside targets at 57.24. So it's around here, and then 58.21. But you are counter trend, so just make sure you're careful. All right, Greg, does that help you out? Does everybody understand that emphasis on, even though the forecast is coming close, we want price to confirm and low is actually going to form? Because we also have the bear zone domination in play. Trifecta all coming together. Yes, yes. Okay, good. All right, we are at 5:15, so you have 15 minutes more to go. So let me revisit other questions you've been asking. I think I did a good job. Okay, Rainier asked about MOS patiently in the beginning, so I will bring that back now. Need some water. We're going to take an eye break quick, just for 30 seconds. I'm going to look away from the screen. So I put the timer for it. That's what that little bird chirp is. This time I'm closing my eyes. I feel like I'm staring at the charts or the TV all day. Does anybody else feel that way? On days like this, when it's moving so much and so fast, you kind of like, are like, oh, there's so much information flying around. But in the end, the only information I really need is to come back to the chart and pay attention to what unfolds. Okay, I'm done stretching my eyes here. Greg, if you want to learn how to do forecasts, that's all in the loss forecasting trading system, just so you know. So even though in a review session like this, I'm not going to sit and teach what I do, I am deploying the analysis tool, and I'm just letting you know where it is. Richie, yeah, I can get Amazon after I get Rainier, MOS. Olga, I see your question about Adobe. And Terry, I see your question about the Russell. Okay, Rainier, are you here? Yes, ready? 60 seconds of a weekly chart for the Mosaic company. So I actually want to go to a monthly chart for a moment because I feel like there's a lot of history here. Oh yeah, check that out. So this had a major sort of parabolic move back a long time ago, and then a little bit of a steadier fall. Now, very interesting, for the first time since 2011, this stock is back at highs and could break higher. Notice when it did that here, God, I don't know why the pink won't be overwritten. Okay, so when we broke above the 2017 highs and 2018 guys, do you see how it failed? It just broke above, and then the next week closed back below. I'm wondering if that's going to happen here, Rainier. Do you see this? We're testing these levels, but this could just be some sort of expanding sort of resistance area. I'll leave the weekly in a second. So that's what I have to analyze on the weekly. On the weekly, momentum is rising, but again, we're at this important resistance. So 37.33, let's take that, sorry, on the monthly. Now let's take that back to the weekly. Give myself max 60 seconds. Okay, so this is the level that was violated. Pull back. On the weekly, we're back at the bull support power zone. And let's now focus in on the most recent action on the weekly. interesting, for a weekly chart, there's a lot of volatile sort of bars here. But I see that this low right here is the one that was shaping the uptrend. Now, how I determine that is because I'm basically looking at price as a constant interplay of holding levels and violating levels. That's it. So when this high was broken, this became a low. When this high was broken, this became an important low. When this high was broken, this became an important low. When this high was broken, this became an important low. When this high was broken, this became an important low. And when this high was broken, this became an important low. Please type a Y if that helps you with your trend understanding, guys. You don't need moving averages all the time. You don't need special channels and bands and all that stuff. If you know how to read price action and you understand that it's just a matter of bulls and bears basically beating each other up and whoever's winning, dominating and creating the pattern on the chart, that's all you need. And I do that in a flash because I'm just doing it for a long time, but you can do it the way I did. You can draw the lines and highlight the levels. Okay. So Rainier, I think it's important to see that we are hanging out at this level. Hanging out is a very technical term for market has tested support level and not violated it, right? We are not able to really push down below. We just briefly went down there. So for your stock here, honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to add, except you're long at 30.25. Okay, so you're kind of long in the middle of this consolidation, and your upside target is 38 with your stop loss at 30. I guess you kind of have to just hold on and see. I do think you have the favor of the weekly basing in the bull support power zone. I will glance at the daily for a moment, and then we'll move along. So the daily is going to be a lot more choppy, a lot more sideways looking. But on the daily chart, I don't see any reason why you don't have a chance to come back up to your $38. Do keep in mind that this price spike on the daily chart is important. So if you trade up into 36, don't be too cute, okay? Protect your profits instead of just waiting for 38, like trail up your stop or whatever. Does that help you out, Rainier? Yes, Kurt, a lot of traders like Heikin-Ashi candles, helps see the trend smoother. For me, I always just found more comfort in going up or out a time frame. That's all I need. Basic candles like the ones they used to trade rice futures in the 1700s, good enough for me. But hey, whatever helps you guys, right? Cool. How are we guys? How are we feeling? How are we doing? This was, like I said, truly spontaneous. Truly me just feeling like you all need a little helping hand. And I'm still here. So Olga, you ready? We'll look at Adobe. Okay. ADB. Adobe. 60 seconds on the clock. Weekly chart of Adobe. Well, very long-term uptrend, most recently shaped by this March 12th low from just this spring. And within that, the May 14th low. Rolling over after coming back to the bull resistance power zone, advanced RSI power zone students. What else do you see here? Look at this, 80.62 versus 78.52 versus 80.46. What is it that you see? That's right. Historical hold, relative zone, right? Might be useful as this market continues on. So Olga, in this pullback, what we see here in the weekly is we are breaking bar lows. But if I go back in time, the most recent price low or swing low that was important was actually back here. So let's take that to the daily chart, 468.50. Now it's going to be far away from price action, but I still just want to know where it is. 468.50. And so Adobe, you have a recommendation for a seasonal trade to buy a call tomorrow, end of day. Okay, so if it's seasonal, just for anybody else who's here who doesn't know what seasonal means, it means that Olga is either on her own determining or following recommended advice that Adobe tends to form a low around this time in September and then trade higher. And so it's worth buying a call, right? Taking advantage of the potential upward action. Is that right, Olga? Am I understanding correctly? Does everybody else understand what seasonality means then? Please type them in the chat. Okay, seasonal trade doesn't have to be the actual seasons, winter, fall, spring, summer. It is usually often tied to earnings and other things too. Or if it's like an energy stock or something like that, it can be tied to weather, various reasons. Okay, so you have that alert. And one thing you have supporting you that's independent of whether you came up with that alert or got it from somebody else is we're in the bull support power zone. So that's helpful. Now, just being the bull support power zone doesn't mean we'll stop there. But when we analyze this Adobe daily uptrend, just like before, I crossed out highs and drew in the lows. I'm just dotting them as I see them. So every time price crossed above the recent highs, what's the high or low that formed? Now, why did I skip this guy right here? This one right here. Because this low didn't break above this high. You guys see that? That's why the dot skipped over it. Okay. So let's come back. Here, here. Okay, so far we have broken this low, came back up and are pushing lower. And the fact that we're in the bull support power zone is good, but we also just turned around in the bear resistance power zone for the first time in a while. So I don't know. I think you have to just be careful. I think whatever your position is, if you're going to go long on that alert, then very carefully watch this low back here, which is at 623.63. If the market doesn't hold that, there might be more weakness below. And Olga, you always want to consider the related broad market to your stock. So Adobe trades on the NASDAQ, right? It's pretty obviously listed here. So I would look at what the NASDAQ is doing too, and just, consider that. Okay, it doesn't mean you can't buy or sell stocks if they're not doing exactly what the NASDAQ is. It's just helpful, especially after a time in a day like this. Okay, let us look at Amazon, or RTY, and then Amazon, and then we're almost done. So if you have any last calls, any last questions, guys, now's the time to ask. Okay, so Terry, you asked about the Russell. Here's a continuous contract. This thing's been just sideways forever, doing like nothing, right? Small caps barely moving compared to the larger stocks. But on the weekly chart, we can see that we're still holding all of these support levels. And right now we have this price range that we held the middle of today. You guys see that? The middle was 2160.50 and we came to 2146.90. Okay. Same thing on the Russells. You look at the resistance, and the most recent one was this little guy right here. So I mark that in blue, and I will pay attention to the low, midpoint, and high of that bar. Okay. Now, if we take that to the daily chart, so I didn't need my whole minute here, I'll just finish it out. Well, it looks like at a recent monthly group coaching, we had a forecast on here that was met and was helpful for a high September 8th on the Russell. Now, what's the expectation for where this market will stop? Woo, look at that. My lost forecasting students, do you see that? We basically came to the price of the forecast and we're only a day late. So the Russell maybe, based on timing, has room to stabilize here and turn higher. But we always want to look at the price action to confirm. So we want to make sure we stay above this daily price probe. And again, on the daily chart, it's this little price spike here that's probably most important. So Terry, does that help you out? Timing for a low yesterday, we overshot it by a day, but price-wise and time-wise, it looks like it might be holding in. Okay, so look at all the lower swing highs on your intraday charts as well to help you see which of these might be important. But even if it gets through all of that, this is a very important barrier here, all of this. All right, I see two popular ones being asked about, Amazon and Tesla for Tara. Or is it Thara? I don't know. I have a friend who's Indian. Her name is spelled T-A-R-A, but you pronounce it Thara. So let's come back here. Amazon for Richie. Okay, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, excuse me. Amazon weekly chart. Broke out of multi-year range, pushed up, and I got to look back at my skinny market outlooks to see where the key timing is. But just based on the current price action, looks like we wants to revisit at least this range. And it just did. So the high of this bar is 3,300 and today's low is 3,305. So it's just sort of in a indeterminate area on the weekly chart. I don't have that much more to say on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, retraced 50% of the last move higher, but it's sort of hanging out there. That's after weakening in the bear resistance power zone. These are the three most important supports I'm seeing besides today's bar range, and here's why. Ready? All right. So if we continue lower and we keep retracing the last move, notice how this August 25th bar, guys, do you see how this August 25th bar is a red candle? Please type a Y if you see what I mean. Red body, August 25th, Amazon. Okay. Without having to go to a smaller time frame, it's a pretty safe bet that means that on a smaller time frame chart, like an hourly chart, this was some sort of downward correction before price moved higher. So I am basically presuming that on a 60-minute or 120-minute or 240-minute chart, the low of that day is some sort of price low or swing low without going and looking. We're going to double check though. So 32.8615. My presumption is that on the intraday chart, that was an important low. And here it is right here. Do you see that, guys? How if you know how to read your candlesticks, you don't have to keep going to a bunch of different time frames lower. You can get a lot of information out of the current one. Great. So this is that same level on the 60-minute chart, which was obviously a clear higher low, right? Swing low even. Great. So let's come back to the daily chart. That's why that's an important support. Why is this one important? Well, really, I could have done something else. I just wanted to kind of show you a different visual. I could have taken my fib tool and outlined the whole range because the whole thing would be a price probe, which again, price probes, price spikes, my favorite support and resistance, which I teach in the 4 zones RSI. So the high, the middle, and the low of that are important too. So that's what I would keep an eye on to the downside. Now to the upside on Amazon, we did make a gap. And look at the last time we made a gap. It didn't come quite to the middle and stop there, but see, it didn't close the gap all the way. So don't have this notion that gaps are always immediately closed. That's not true. They are often eventually closed, but you don't want to shape your trades only on that. So even if this gap here gets closed, what to me is more important is that this entire bar here is making a lower high. And so the low, midpoint, and high of that are important. Okay, last one, Tesla. Tesla for Tara. And here we go. 1 minute chart, 60 seconds on the weekly chart. Oh my God. This whole timer thing keeps making me say the wrong number for time frame. Okay. Ran up in the bull market, working off overbought conditions and going sideways again, just like it did a while ago. I remember that. Now I believe the stock is going in a much, I can see it's going in a much wider, more dramatic range than what this was last year. So this is shaped by the high of this bar and the low of this bar. And within that, on the weekly chart, this is the most recent price low to monitor. Low. So 708.85 came to 709.50. Do you guys see that? How last week's low was very close to this high on Tesla? Please type a Y. Next support is 679.17, Tara. I would watch out for that if we keep going lower. Now on the resistance, my timer says to go to the daily chart. Oh, well, thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. He said, very nice of you to do this impromptu today. Well, like I said, I felt it. And it was one of those market days where I probably would have spent the evening, if this was like 20 years ago, either talking to my dad about it on the phone, or if I was at home, going to his study and pulling up the charts and doing this. So I can't do that with him, but I can do it with you. And I appreciate that. All right. Let's see here. God, I don't like when they're all fugly and sideways like this. But that's just what it looks like to me, right? But look at the momentum even. We've got this peaking constantly at these same levels. So I think I would watch for a little bit more choppiness here on Tesla, but big picture, still poised to break this consolidation higher, but like still has a lot of time before that could happen. Okay, guys, it's 5:36. I have taken all the tickers that have come through in the time allotted. Those that came in right after are fine, Stinley. I see your CVS. All right, we'll do it. You got it in right before the bell. You typed that in at 5:29. So we'll do CVS and then we will finish. Okay, 1 minute on the CVS weekly chart. CVS uptrend off the October 30th low. Looks like this is the beginning of a new drive higher. We really want to draw a very long-term forecast on this. So pop quiz. Let's end it with a pop quiz. I'm going to number and you guys tell me, okay? So really quick, 1, 2. Actually, we're going to try something different. Ready? So I did this with the coaching students in Futures Trading Live, and you said you found it beneficial. So you know how I teach that we always label highs and lows, either A, B, C, or D, depending on what they are? Well, now I think I'm going to do this, okay? When I start getting into the next round, we're going to number them, because this will train you more in the line with the way the system was first created. So my loss forecasting students, which of these levels would you use to make your next prediction on CVS? Let me know in the chat. And after this, we'll wrap up. So Yogesh, remember with a forecast, we have 3 data points we use. If you're not familiar with that, that's in the loss forecasting trading system. So you are giving me part of it, but not all of it. Yeah, you guys got it. Sebastian, Danny, Canty, Anderson, Kathan, yes. No, based on the information I gave you, okay, because I didn't let you pick your own highs and lows. I gave them to you. I agree. A2, C2, oops. And here we have a multi-bottom low, right? So we want to get the furthest one out, B2. So Stinley, there's your forecast. Now, is it going to go up in a straight line? Probably not. What does it have to deal with along the way? First thing it has to deal with is this price spike. Okay, and then let's just move to the daily chart really quick. So let's just roughly remember that November, $100, and we have this daily weekly price spike. So this was somebody's trade we were recreating here. So in the daily chart, the price spike is a lot narrower, more narrow, God, it's hard to say. And then we have this price probe. So Stinley, your question was, I like how CVS is rejecting the September 15th low. Do you think it's a good day to take advantage? So there's room for that. The thing is that this is all after a very long move down. Stanley, do you see this? This whole long move down, this is still just a retracement and recovery of that. And your RSI is still just hanging out around neutral. So I'm not saying that there's not room for upside. I just think with everything else going on in the market, you have to just be very careful with your management of the resistance targets. Okay. Great. So how are you guys feeling? Do you feel like you have a little bit more bearing, a little bit more context in what's going on? Maybe a little less freaked out from this kind of wild day? That's what this was for, just to like everybody get their bearings and get their whatever. Yes, this is being recorded. Presuming the recording goes through, we will make it available. All right, awesome, Rainier. Glad to hear it. You're welcome, Bruce. Oh, thanks, Canty. Okay, cool, guys. Well, let's see. Do you guys have any new other questions? This is, I believe this might be the first time that I invited the whole tribe, whether you are a member of anything or not. Like you literally could have found me floating across the internet yesterday and be here today. So this is your opportunity to ask me kind of wrap-up questions. We're done with the analysis portion here. So let me show you what exactly happens when we have these sessions, okay? So normally these sessions, since they're for members only, they get loaded to the portals at either HimaReddy.com/portal or HimaReddy.com/university. Bob says, we've seen this before, sharp sell-off. It won't be the last one. I agree. And that's why this sharp sell-off, but I still think, so anybody who came late, who had other things going on, maybe you were, taking a breather after trading. I just want to show you on the ES, on the daily chart, okay, we spent a lot of time at the beginning of this session talking about how this price action, yes, it broke below this low from August 19th, is it? I forget the number in my head. Yes, August 19th, but it basically just came back to the July 19th low. Are you guys paying attention to that? Think about that for a second.